The anointed ones are to be welcomed. When the weight of the truth becomes too heavy, even the proudest soul must kneel. Imagine this: there is someone who has wronged you or kept secrets from you, and they are trying to sleep, feeling like they're carrying a boulder in their chest. They toss and turn, trying to shake off the unease, but the guilt has woven itself into their very soul. And guess what? God will not let them rest. The anointed ones are to be welcomed. When the weight of the truth becomes too heavy, even the proudest soul must kneel. Imagine this: someone who has wronged you or kept secrets from you is trying to sleep, feeling like they're carrying a boulder in their chest. They toss and turn, trying to shake off the unease. But the guilt has woven itself into their very soul, and guess what? God won't let them rest until they confess to you. Yes, they're practically being haunted by their own conscience, and it's about time they come clean. Here's an intriguing fact: studies show that the majority of people who harbor guilt feel physical symptoms, from restlessness to racing hearts. And for the chosen ones out there, this goes double. Your energy holds a unique power, an almost supernatural effect, making it impossible for individuals who harbor guilt may experience a range of physical symptoms, from restlessness to racing hearts, as indicated by studies. This phenomenon is particularly pronounced for those who have been wronged. For these individuals, the energy associated with guilt can be so profound that it can interfere with their ability to find peace. In some cases, this energy can manifest as a sense of unease, leading to the urge to confess. It is important to note that this process is not merely a superficial confession, but rather a deep unraveling and spiritual reckoning. It is a process that is likely to be of interest to observe. Those who experience guilt cannot escape the divine pressure. Individuals who have crossed them in order to attain peace may experience a range of intense emotions, including feelings of unease and a sense of being overwhelmed. These feelings may manifest as a sense of urgency to address past transgressions, leading to a state of heightened awareness and introspection. It is important to recognize that this phenomenon is not merely a psychological response but rather a manifestation of a spiritual reckoning. Those who have committed transgressions against chosen individuals are confronted with a profound sense of guilt, which is not merely an ordinary emotional response. This guilt is characterized by a relentless weight on one's spirit, exacerbated by a force that seems to be impossible to dislodge. It is as if the universe itself is conspiring to ensure that the individual cannot escape accountability for their actions. Regardless of one's attempts to ignore or dismiss these feelings, the pressure mounts, becoming a constant presence in one's thoughts and emotions, particularly during moments of solitude. Attempts to ignore this sensation are met with a mounting sense of pressure, akin to a tightening knot in the chest, until it becomes almost unbearable. There is no respite from this pressure, as it is not merely a figment of the mind. Instead, it is a divine force that demands acknowledgement of the truth. This pressure begins to permeate every facet of life, manifesting as seemingly minor annoyances that escalate into overwhelming burdens. Patience wanes, and even this sensation permeates every facet of their existence, manifesting as a mounting sense of pressure, a profound sense of restlessness, and a pervasive sense of unease. The burden becomes so overwhelming that even sleep seems to betray them, as restful dreams give way to restless nights, during which they find themselves staring at the ceiling, unable to find solace. They come to the realization that this sensation is of a magnitude that cannot be disregarded. They perceive a guiding force, or perhaps an unyielding power, propelling them towards a state of rectification, regardless of the discomfort it might entail. The prospect of confession begins to take on a sense of inevitability, as if it were the sole means of finding respite from this pervasive pressure. Sleep proves to be a deceiving ally, as it lures them into experiencing restless dreams or a pervasive sense of unease, compelling them to remain vigilant and awake, their eyes fixed on the ceiling in the midst of nocturnal hours. They come to recognize that this sensation transcends the realm of mere physical discomfort, as if they are being guided, or perhaps compelled, towards a state of rectification, irrespective of the personal cost. The notion of confessing their transgressions begins to take on the semblance of a solitary path to freedom. This phenomenon can be attributed to the concept of divine justice, which refuses to allow them to evade accountability until they are fully transparent. The more they resist, the greater the pressure mounts, akin to a weight bearing down upon their heart, hindering their progress. The truth they harbor in secrecy acts as a substantial impediment, obstructing their ability to move forward. The only avenue through which they can attain solace lies in confessing their transgressions to you. This process entails more than mere acknowledgement. It is a matter of survival, It is not merely an act of confession, but rather a process of purging a burden that can only be relieved through rectification with the individual in question. Secondly, the individual realizes that the other party is an integral component of the spiritual assessment. When an individual causes harm to a chosen one, it is not merely a consequence of selfishness or a momentary lapse in judgment. Instead, it is often part of a more profound, almost mystical, examination of character. This examination is not merely a matter of understanding, but rather a journey of self-discovery that is unique to each individual. This phenomenon is characterized by a unique spiritual gravity that exerts a profound influence on those around them, eliciting both the best and the worst in others. For the individual who has committed an offense, it is as if their spirit is aware of a deficiency, necessitating the fulfillment of an amends to successfully traverse this test of integrity. This process does not entail a mere reprimand from their conscience, rather, it involves confronting a spiritual crossroads. They experience a disconcerting sense that the presence of a chosen one exerts an invisible gravitational pull on all those in its vicinity, eliciting a response from those around them. This response can manifest as a sense of remorse or a desire to make amends for past transgressions, whether intentional or inadvertent. The gravity of these actions, and the subsequent realization that one's own growth and evolution are inextricably linked to the actions of another, can be profoundly disconcerting. The gravity of these actions, whether lying, betrayal, or the failure to treat another with the respect and honesty that is their right, can leave a lasting imprint on the conscience of the transgressor. In this sense, confessing to the chosen one can become a means of attempting to redress these wrongs, whether intentionally or not. Thirdly, the presence of the confessor can disrupt the energy field of the confessed. When an individual crosses a chosen one, it disrupts their energy field, causing a shift in balance. A chosen one radiates a unique energy field, and the presence of the confessor disrupts this field, potentially leading to a state of imbalance. The actions of the confessor, whether they are dishonesty, betrayal, or failure to treat the confessor with respect, leave an imprint on the confessor's psyche. These actions create a shadow over the confessor, serving as a reminder of their shortcomings. The act of confessing to the confessor becomes a means of attempting to redeem themselves, not only in the confessor's eyes but also in their own spiritual journey. The pressure to confess is not merely a means of alleviating guilt, it is a quiet desperation to avoid becoming stuck in a lower state of consciousness. It is as if the spirit of the confessor is saying, "You failed this test," but perhaps, if the confessor is brave enough to admit it, they can still find a way forward. Consequently, they are compelled towards the confessor by an invisible force. This compulsion serves as a catalyst for self-reflection, prompting individuals to acknowledge their transgressions and the profound impact they have had on their own spiritual well-being. Thirdly, the presence of a chosen one disrupts their energy field, leading to a disruption in their equilibrium. A chosen one radiates a unique energy field that is distinct from that of others, and when their energy is disrupted, it has the potential to influence the entire energy field of the individual in question. Thirdly, the presence of a chosen one disrupts the energy field of another individual. When an individual crosses a chosen one, it disrupts their energy field, causing a shift in balance. A chosen one emits a unique frequency that brings clarity, honesty, and authenticity to every interaction. This energy is powerful and disruptive, especially to those who harbor secrets or hidden wrongs. When an individual has wronged another, the energy of the victim begins to act like a mirror, reflecting the weight of what has been done. The perpetrator cannot dismiss this energy because the victim's presence disrupts the hidden energy within them. The presence of this energy has the capacity to disrupt the hidden layers of emotional complexity that individuals carry, particularly in cases where there is a history of emotional transgressions or unaddressed wrongdoings. When confronted with the authentic energy of another individual, those who have transgressed may experience a sense of exposure and discomfort, leading them to adopt a defensive posture. This interaction can be likened to a storm within their internal emotional landscape, compelling them to confront their unresolved issues. The discomfort experienced is significant, extending beyond the mental realm and manifesting as a physical sensation. The energy of the other person functions as a tuning fork, resonating in a manner that brings forth their authentic self. The presence of unresolved issues can be felt by those in proximity, evoking a sense of unease and defensiveness. This discomfort manifests as a physical pressure that is both mental and physical, causing restlessness, irritation, and even paranoia. In the presence of the other person, feelings of guilt become profoundly intense, seemingly impossible to conceal. This heightened awareness of one's own feelings can be overwhelming, leading to a sense of unbearable weight. As time passes, this emotional disturbance accumulates, pushing individuals to the brink of their limits. The only way to alleviate this distress is to confront the underlying issues. Subjects experience a state of physical and emotional discomfort, characterized by a sense of unease, restlessness, irritability, and occasionally paranoia. This discomfort manifests as a sense of internal distress that is acutely perceived by the individual, to the extent that it becomes a source of profound psychological distress. The compulsion to confess to the individual in question is driven by the subjective experience of seeking to restore a sense of equilibrium to their internal energy field. The act of confession is perceived as a potential catalyst for the alleviation of this discomfort. The presence of unresolved guilt is likened to the metaphorical presence of a ticking bomb, suggesting an imminent detonation of psychological distress. It is anticipated that the individual will be compelled to confront the truth in the near future. The act of confession is perceived as a means of achieving a state of psychological peace. Confessing becomes their last hope to stop bad luck. When an individual wrongs a chosen one, it is as if they unknowingly invite a wave of misfortune into their own life. Initially, they might dismiss these occurrences as coincidences, missing an important deadline or experiencing a minor argument. However, as time progresses, the setbacks begin to accumulate. They start missing out on opportunities that were once within reach, experiencing financial strains, or dealing with these setbacks manifest as missed opportunities, financial difficulties, and constant disruptions to their personal lives, creating an environment where misfortune seems to accumulate. The perceived sequence of unfortunate events evolves into a more persistent and pervasive pattern, as if an unseen force is systematically hindering their progress. The notion of bad luck is not merely a matter of temporal misfortune, it suggests a more profound and pervasive influence that disrupts their lives, leading to chaos and disappointment in areas that previously flowed smoothly. This series of events begins to take a toll on their mental and emotional well-being, regardless of the strategies they attempt to employ. They attempt to alter the course of events through increased effort, improved planning, and a positive outlook, yet their efforts seem to be in vain. This prompts them to consider the possibility that their actions toward others might be associated with their personal difficulties. Initially a subtle notion, it gradually intensifies as their luck continues to decline. They begin to hypothesize that their misfortune could be a form of cosmic justice or a repercussion of their actions. This phenomenon is characterized by a perceived connection between their actions and the misfortunes they encounter, leading to the hypothesis that confessing their transgressions may serve as a means of averting further negative outcomes. The act of confessing to an individual becomes a means of seeking respite from the perceived curse, representing a desperate attempt to break the cycle of misfortune that has seemingly taken hold. In this context, confession transcends the mere act of addressing guilt, instead serving as a catalyst for addressing the underlying issues that have contributed to the perceived negative spiral. Eventually, they reach a point where the only way out seems to be a confession. Ownership of their actions begins to feel like the only way to break this curse. They're desperate for relief, and the thought of confessing to you becomes almost like a lifeline, a way to clear the slate and end the spiral of bad luck that's taken over their life. In their mind, confession is no longer just about easing guilt, it's about finding a way to stop the downward trajectory their life has taken since they wronged you. The fifth element is the unseen soul contract, which pulls them toward you. For some, the connection to a chosen one goes deeper than either of them might consciously understand. There's a sense of an unseen soul contract at play, an agreement made on a spiritual level, perhaps even before they came into this life. This soul contract means that at some point, they would cross paths with you, make a mistake that would test both of your spirits, and then be given the choice to make things right. Wronging you isn't simply a random act, it's part of a larger spiritual lesson, a preordained obligation woven into their soul's path. This isn't just a matter of a standard apology or a simple, sorry. It's much deeper, a profound chance for them to experience humility, growth, and accountability through the act of. It is evident that an individual who has committed an error toward another is compelled to make amends, a process that is not merely a matter of expressing regret or offering an apology. Rather, it is a profound opportunity for introspection, self-discovery, and the fulfillment of a spiritual obligation that is intricately interwoven with the individual's journey. This obligation, imbued with a sense of gravity and urgency, serves as a catalyst for personal growth and accountability. It is noteworthy that the individual may not be fully cognizant of this pull, yet it exerts a powerful influence, drawing them back to the other person. This pull is not merely a matter of complying with external expectations, it is, in essence, an internal drive to fulfill a higher purpose that is deeply embedded in the individual's soul. It is as though the individual has been entrusted with a spiritual task, and avoiding it is not an option. The individual cannot truly progress until they confront and fulfill this obligation. With each day that passes without confession, the individual experiences a growing sense of facing you. They are pulled in a direction that is not necessarily conscious. This force draws them back to you, urging them to confess not only to ease their conscience but to fulfill a higher purpose embedded in their soul's journey. It's as though they've been given a spiritual task, and avoiding it isn't an option. They can't truly move forward until they meet this obligation. With every day that they resist the call to confess, they feel increasingly out of alignment, disconnected from themselves and from life's flow. They might feel a strange emptiness, an unexplained sense of being lost or incomplete. This pull toward you becomes their spirit's way of saying, you have unfinished business here. By coming clean, they fulfill their role in this soul contract, finding not only redemption but a crucial lesson that brings them closer to their true purpose. The confession isn't merely a relief. Individuals experiencing this phenomenon may feel a sense of disconnection from themselves and from the prevailing forces of life. This feeling may manifest as a pervasive emptiness, an inexplicable sense of being lost or incomplete. This pull toward the individual becomes a spiritual way of indicating that there is unfinished business in that particular place. By coming clean, the individual fulfills their role in this soul contract, thereby finding not only redemption but also a crucial lesson that brings them closer to their true purpose. The confession is not merely a relief, it is a bridge to spiritual growth, a moment of reckoning that frees the individual to move forward, a step toward the person they are meant to become. Individuals number 6 fear the spiritual power of exposure. When someone wrongs a chosen one, they often come to recognize that they are dealing with a force beyond what they are used to. It is not like deceiving just anyone, it is like trying to hide from someone who can see beyond the surface. They begin the 6th individual experiences trepidation regarding the spiritual prowess that the other possesses, which could potentially expose their true self. This apprehension stems from the realization that the other is capable of perceiving their actions more acutely than they had previously anticipated. This heightened perception, which the individual perceives as eerie, is the result of the other's ability to discern underlying emotions and intentions, as well as the capacity to penetrate the veil of deception. This awareness instills a profound sense of anxiety in the individual, causing them to fear that the other might be able to discern their true self at any moment. This heightened awareness of their own vulnerabilities engenders a sense of impending doom, as they perceive the possibility of exposure as imminent. Their secrets appear fragile in your presence, vulnerable to revelation through a mere glance or utterance. This apprehension serves as a catalyst, propelling them to confess their secrets before they are fully unmasked. Their apprehension extends beyond mere concern for your judgment. They fear the spiritual consequences of concealing the truth from someone as perceptive as you. It is as if they stand on the precipice of a cliff, feeling that with each falsehood they perpetuate, they are inviting a more intense response. To them, confessing seems to be the only way to mitigate the anticipated consequences. They hope that by taking the first step and facing you openly, they can lessen the inevitable repercussions. Admitting their actions feels like the only way to shield themselves from an even more severe spiritual response. Cliff perceives that each lie they maintain engenders a more formidable force, compelling them to confess as a means of mitigating the anticipated consequences. They anticipate that by taking the first step and facing you openly, they can temper the inevitable repercussions. They sense that owning up to their actions is the sole opportunity to shield themselves from an even more profound spiritual reckoning. In your presence, their need to confess becomes urgent, almost desperate, as if it's their last opportunity to evade an inner storm. Only you appear to wield the power to unleash it. Number 7. Their ego is finally vanquished by spiritual consequences. For someone who wrongs a chosen one, admitting fault would be unthinkable. Their ego serves as a fortress, a shield that blocks them from acknowledging any wrongdoing. Pride keeps them convinced. The ego's fortress-like nature serves as a shield, blocking the acknowledgement of transgressions. Pride fosters the belief that control and autonomy are never necessary. However, a shift occurs, and a weight emerges, pressing down on them. This weight surpasses the usual pangs of guilt, and the sense of facing a formidable force becomes overwhelming. The energy they experience is almost oppressive, as if the universe itself is demanding transparency. This is the first time they have encountered this phenomenon. For the first time, they perceive that their ego is powerless in the face of this spiritual consequence. Their usual defenses crumble under this weight. It is a divine reckoning, a consequence that strikes at the core of their being, breaking through every mental barrier they have built to keep themselves untouchable. The unsettling feeling grows daily, creating a restlessness that even their pride can't ignore. They realize that no amount of ego, denial, or self-righteousness can shield them from this force pressing them toward truth. The weight becomes unbearable, leaving them with only one option: to surrender. Confessing becomes the only viable path forward. It's no longer about saving face or minimizing the fallout. It's about releasing the tension of fighting against something infinitely more powerful than one's own will. In that moment, this act of confession becomes an act of humility, a recognition that they are not in control and cannot outrun the consequences of their actions. They finally see that they cannot overcome the spiritual forces at play. The confession is not just an apology, it is a rare moment of surrender, a humbling acknowledgement that they have reached the limits of their own power. The energy of truth has begun to haunt them. When an individual wrongs a chosen one, the lies they tell weave a complex web around them, creating a false sense of security. In their minds, they believe they can maintain control by burying the truth, but lies generate their own energy, a heavy, tangled force that soon becomes suffocating. Over time, the weight of this falsehood grows unbearable, transforming into a gnawing feeling that something isn't right, that it's as if their very essence is. The energy of truth has begun to take its toll on them. When an individual wrongs a chosen one, the lies they tell weave a complex web around them, creating a false sense of security. In their minds, they believe they can maintain control by burying the truth, but lies generate their own energy, a heavy, tangled force that soon becomes suffocating. Over time, the weight of this falsehood grows unbearable, transforming into a gnawing feeling that something is amiss. It's as if their very essence is being suffocated by the deceit they've spun. However, this energy pales in comparison to the relentless force of truth. As the days pass, they begin to feel the energy of truth encroaching on their reality, an almost haunting presence that refuses to let go. This presence manifests in various ways: recurring dreams that remind them of their actions, sudden flashes of memory that catch them off guard, or inexplicable waves of anxiety that wash over them without warning. They might find themselves waking up. The subjects experience a sense of being suffocated by the deceit they have spun. However, this energy pales in comparison to the relentless force of truth. As time passes, they begin to feel the energy of truth encroaching on their reality, manifesting as an almost haunting presence that refuses to relinquish its hold. This presence takes various forms, including recurring dreams that serve as a reminder of their actions, sudden flashes of memory that catch them off guard, and inexplicable waves of anxiety that wash over them without warning. They might wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat, as visions of their wrongdoing swirl in their mind. This energy cannot be ignored. It stalks them, creeping into their thoughts and disrupting their peace. They begin to sense that something is pursuing them, an intangible force that demands acknowledgement. This feeling grows more intense, becoming a primal urge to confront what they've hidden. No matter how hard they try to shake it off, the truth relentlessly pulls at them, urging them to face their actions. In the midst of nocturnal slumber, they are besieged by a state of perspiration and haunted by images of their transgressions. This phenomenon, characterized by its pervasive and unrelenting nature, cannot be disregarded. It insinuates itself into their consciousness, disrupting their serenity and engendering a sense of being pursued by an intangible entity that demands acknowledgement. This sensation intensifies, giving rise to a primordial urge to confront the concealed transgressions. Despite their attempts to dismiss the compulsion, the truth persists in its insistence, urging them to face the reality they have long evaded. They discern that the only means of quieting this incessant haunting is to confess to you, to admit the transgressions they have committed. In that moment of realization, they come to understand that the burden of their lies is eclipsed by the weight of facing the truth. By confronting you and disclosing their actions, they can finally liberate themselves from the energy that has ensnared them, extricating their spirit from the shadows that have persisted for an extended duration. Their spirit seeks your forgiveness to find rest. Deep within, there's a part of them that understands a powerful truth. Forgiveness from a chosen one is unlike any other. Forgiveness is not just a simple act of kindness or a way to smooth over a mistake. It represents a unique form of grace, a spiritual transformation that the subject's spirits are seeking forgiveness to attain rest. There is a part of them that understands a powerful truth. Forgiveness from a chosen one is unique. It is not just a simple act of kindness or a way to smooth over a mistake. It represents a form of grace that can heal wounds and restore balance. The subjects may not fully comprehend it, but their spirits crave this forgiveness desperately. This craving goes beyond words or actions. It is an innate yearning for release from the burdens they've carried since they wronged you. This craving is not merely about wanting your forgiveness. Forgiveness is not merely a desire to alleviate guilt, it is a quest for an essential spiritual purification. The subjects recognize that harboring deceit has tainted their essence, leaving them with a sense of heaviness and clouded clarity. Without your forgiveness, their spirit feels trapped, burdened by a sense of shame and regret that weighs them down. It is evident that the subjects experience a state of internal turmoil, characterized by a sense of remorse and a yearning for release from the burden of their transgressions. They recognize the necessity of atonement for their spiritual well-being, which has been adversely affected by their actions. The pursuit of forgiveness from the individual in question is not merely a gesture of leniency but a catalyst for the restoration of their spiritual essence. The prospect of attaining your forgiveness is a source of profound concern for the subjects, as it holds the potential to liberate them from the heavy weight of their transgressions. The desire for forgiveness transcends the mere act of apology, representing a profound yearning for spiritual liberation. It signifies a profound aspiration to be liberated from the shackles of their own creation. They recognize that approaching you and acknowledging their transgressions is a pivotal step on the path to this freedom. It involves the process of extricating themselves from the emotional distress that has beset them, enabling their spirit to soar above the burden of their decisions. In confessing their transgressions, they seek not just your pardon but also the release from the internalized struggles that have beleaguered them. The subjects express a profound desire to be absolved of their transgressions, seeking the release that comes from the acknowledgement of their transgressions. They recognize that this admission before another individual, in this case the informant, is a critical step in their journey toward freedom. This process involves the subjects unshackling themselves from the emotional turmoil that has plagued them, allowing their spirit to rise above the weight of their choices. By confessing to the informant, the subjects hope to reclaim a sense of wholeness, to feel the lightness that comes from being forgiven by someone with such profound spiritual insight. This journey toward the informant's forgiveness becomes a quest for the subject's own redemption, a vital step in healing their spirit and restoring the peace they have longed for. They aspire to earn your respect, even if they do not merit it. At the core of their turmoil lies a profound realization: your respect is sacred, a rare gem that they have forfeited through their actions. They understand the weight of what they have lost, and it consumes them. Yet, in this moment of clarity, they feel a stirring deep within, a desperate urge to confess, to lay bare their wrongs in hopes of reclaiming even a shred of that honor. To them, being honest with you carries more significance. The pursuit of self-validation from external sources is of paramount importance. The perspective offered by others is not merely a form of judgment, it serves as a mirror, reflecting not only shortcomings but also the latent potential for growth. In the presence of others, the opportunity for redemption, however modest it may appear, is recognized. The prospect of confessing and attaining even a modicum of respect becomes a source of hope. They seek to reveal their true selves, unmasked by ego and vulnerabilities, and express their authentic truths. In doing so, they are not merely seeking your validation, they are yearning to witness a different version of themselves reflected back, one that embodies honesty, integrity, and the potential for change. This moment is not merely about regret, it is about the possibility of transformation. They recognize that they may not deserve your respect at this moment, but the desire to earn it propels them forward. It is a journey of self-discovery and growth, driven by the hope that they can transform their lives and create a new narrative for themselves. The subjects of this study wish to present themselves before the audience, divested of their ego and vulnerabilities, and express their truth. In doing so, they are not merely seeking the audience's approval, they are yearning to witness a different version of themselves reflected back, one that embodies honesty, integrity, and the potential for change. This moment is not merely about regret, it is about the possibility of transformation. The subjects of this study know they may not deserve the audience's respect at this moment, but the desire to earn it drives them forward. It is a compelling force, pushing them to confront their wrongs and seek the honesty that could begin to mend the rift between them and the audience. The subjects of this study want to be seen as more than their mistakes, they long to emerge from the shadows of their choices, standing in the light of the audience's acknowledgement. In confessing, they hope to step into a new narrative, one where they can redefine themselves and cultivate the respect they so deeply crave. They are reflecting. The subjects of this study have been observed to display a strong desire to be seen as more than their mistakes. They express a longing to emerge from the shadows of their choices and stand in the light of your acknowledgement. Their confessions indicate a hope to step into a new narrative, one in which they can redefine themselves and cultivate the respect they so deeply crave. This new narrative is intended to reflect the truest version of who they are meant to be. The subject's confessions also reveal a hope that you hold the power to unblock them after they have wronged you. This hope is accompanied by a sense of unsettling stagnation, which the subjects describe as feeling as if everything has come to a standstill. This stagnation manifests in various areas of their lives, including relationships that once flourished, with friends drifting away or conflict surfacing. Additionally, the subjects describe a sense of stuckness in their careers, which were once promising and vibrant, and opportunities slipping through their fingers. The most authentic version of themselves is represented by number 11. They hope that you hold the power to unblock them. After they have wronged you, an unsettling stagnation settles into their life, as if everything has come to a standstill. Relationships that once flourished begin to falter, with friends drifting away or conflict surfacing. Their career, once promising and vibrant, feels stuck in neutral, and opportunities slip through their fingers like sand. Even their health seems to deteriorate, a physical manifestation of the turmoil swirling within them. In this state of chaos, they start to recognize a disturbing pattern. Everything they once took for granted now feels blocked, as if some unseen force has severed their connection to abundance and joy. On a subconscious level, they begin to see you as a gatekeeper, a crucial figure whose presence holds the key. In the throes of emotional turbulence, the subject's health appears to deteriorate, serving as a physical manifestation of the internal strife. This state of chaos gives rise to a distressing pattern, wherein all that was once taken for granted now feels obstructed, as if an unseen force has severed their connection to abundance and joy. On a subconscious level, they begin to perceive you as a gatekeeper, a pivotal figure whose presence holds the key to unlocking the flow of life they desperately miss. They come to the realization that their actions have not only harmed you but also erected a barrier between them and the universe's natural abundance. In their mind, if they can make amends with you, confess their transgressions, and clear the air, they might have a chance to restore the balance that has been lost. This confession becomes a desperate bid for freedom, a last attempt to break free from the shackles of their internal turmoil. The subject's actions have resulted in a disruption of the flow of life, and they recognize the negative impact these actions have had on the individual in question. They understand that their actions have created a barrier between them and the universe's natural abundance. They believe that if they can make amends with the individual in question, confess, and clear the air, they might be able to restore the balance that has been lost. This confession becomes a desperate effort to regain the flow of positivity that has been cut off. They hope that by addressing the wrong they've committed against the individual in question, they will not only mend the relationship, but also reopen the channels of good fortune that seem to have closed off. It's an act of faith. They believe that your forgiveness can act as the catalyst that transforms their life from stagnation back to abundance. The subject's objective is not merely to be forgiven, rather, they seek to reclaim their vitality, creativity, and joy. In their perspective, forgiveness represents a return to a life of connection, opportunity, and health. The subject's confession carries not only the burden of regret but also the hope that it will unlock the door to a brighter, more prosperous future. As the individual ascends, a discernible shift in spiritual power becomes evident, signifying their rise as a chosen one. This spiritual journey, characterized by growth, elevation, and profound transformation, has woven a vibrant tapestry of experiences. The individual's ascent is not merely a matter of existence, it is an active process of rising to new heights. This shift in energy is not only perceived but also manifesting in the individual's heightened presence, which radiates strength and purpose. Concurrently, the other individual's journey has stagnated, leaving them feeling entrapped in a cycle of their own creation. This palpable contrast serves as a poignant metaphor for the divergent spiritual trajectories of the two individuals. The contrast is striking: one spirit soars, while the other feels weighed down, anchored in turbulent waters. This disparity fosters an undeniable tension, a widening gap that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The other party can sense the spiritual power shifting around you, a dynamic force that highlights their own limitations and failures. Faced with your ascent, they are confronted with the harsh reality of their choices and the consequences that have led them to this point. The urge to confess begins to bubble. The disparity in spiritual status is evident, with one individual experiencing a sense of freedom and growth, while the other feels stagnant and weighed down. This creates a palpable tension, a widening gap that becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. The individual experiencing growth recognizes the shift in spiritual power, perceiving it as a dynamic force that highlights their own limitations and failures. Faced with this ascent, they are confronted with the harsh reality of their past choices and the consequences that have led them to this point. This prompts an urgent need to confess, driven by a desperate desire to bridge the gap before it becomes insurmountable. They are acutely aware that without some form of reconciliation, they risk being left behind spiritually, stranded, and diminished. This confession is their attempt to realign themselves with you, to restore some semblance of connection before you fully move on. It is not merely about seeking forgiveness, it is about acknowledging the power dynamic that has shifted so dramatically. The subject's motivations for seeking forgiveness and confession are not merely a matter of legal or contractual obligations. Rather, it is an introspective journey of profound spiritual significance. They recognize that the pursuit of reconciliation is essential for maintaining a connection that is otherwise at risk of being severed. This acknowledgement is not merely a legal or contractual obligation, but rather an acknowledgement of the shifting power dynamic between them. The subjects recognize that as they move forward, they may be eclipsed by the individual in question. This prospect is deeply alarming to them, as it would result in their feeling isolated and disconnected. They seek to extricate themselves from this state of obscurity and enter a state of clarity, hoping that by coming clean, they can reclaim a space in your spiritual journey. This recognition is significant because it demonstrates that their personal growth does not merely impact them, it also opens the door for their own potential transformation. Ultimately, this act of confession becomes a crucial step in their pursuit of redemption. It is a final attempt to mend the connection, which has been severed by their actions. It is crucial to acknowledge that as one ascends, there is a risk of being eclipsed entirely. This prospect is deeply alarming. The desire to emerge from the shadows and step into the light is a common sentiment, and it is often accompanied by the hope of reclaiming a space in one's spiritual journey. However, it is important to recognize that one's growth does not solely impact others, it also creates opportunities for one's own potential transformation. Ultimately, this act of confession becomes a crucial step in their desire for redemption. They hope that by facing their wrongs, they can shift the tide of their stagnation and find a way back to the spiritual path they once lost. They yearn to be part of one's journey again, not as an anchor, but as someone who can walk alongside, enriched by the connection that once brought them joy. The journey of seeking forgiveness and confession is not merely a transactional exchange, it is a profound exploration of. The act of seeking forgiveness and making a confession entails a profound examination of the intricate and profound nature of the human spirit. For those who have committed transgressions against a chosen individual, the implications are of existential significance, as they grapple with a myriad of intertwined fears, regrets, and realizations that give rise to a profound need for redemption. This pursuit of honesty is not merely a matter of making amends, it represents a journey toward the reclamation of their essence, a vital step in the process of unearthing the abundance that once flowed freely in their lives. In reaching out, they acknowledge the sacredness of the process. Individuals who have committed transgressions against another may find themselves grappling with a complex array of emotions, including a sense of remorse, regret, and a profound desire for atonement. This journey towards self-disclosure and the restoration of a sense of connection is not merely a matter of addressing past wrongs, it is an endeavor to reclaim a sense of self-integrity and re-establish a connection with a higher power. In reaching out for your respect and acknowledgement of your role as a facilitator of their personal growth, they recognize the significance of your perspective and the potential for your guidance to play a pivotal role in their journey towards self-redemption. The act of confession becomes a crucial link in a complex chain of events that could potentially reconnect them with your elevated existence. It is not merely a matter of alleviating their guilt, it is an opportunity to seek spiritual alignment and a chance to rise alongside you, rather than being left in the shadows of their own creation. Ultimately, their longing to confess reflects a deep yearning for connection and a desire to be seen and accepted by you, their chosen confidant. Confession is a process that facilitates connection, thereby reducing the perceived spiritual distance between individuals. It is not merely a matter of forgiveness, but rather an opportunity to re-establish a sense of belonging and align one's path with a higher power. The act of confessing one's transgressions is a courageous endeavor that transcends mere words, serving as a catalyst for personal transformation. While the outcome of confession may not necessarily result in reconciliation, it marks a significant moment of self-reflection and potential spiritual awakening. Connection is defined as the desire to bridge the spiritual distance that has grown between individuals. Those seeking connection do not merely seek forgiveness, they also seek an opportunity to rediscover their place in the world and align their path with the light that you embody. As they summon the courage to speak their truth, they step into a moment that transcends mere words. It becomes a transformative act that echoes through the fabric of their being. Whether or not their confession leads to reconciliation, it marks a pivotal moment of self-awareness, courage, and the possibility of redemption. In this intricate dance of souls, they come to understand that the journey toward forgiveness is as much about their own awakening as it is about restoring the bond with you. If you found these insights resonating with your own journey and the complexities of human relationships, don't miss out on the transformative content we share here. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of seekers and truth seekers. The concept of awareness, courage, and the possibility of redemption is explored through an examination of the intricate dance of souls. It is revealed that the journey toward forgiveness is not only about restoring the bond with the self, but also about awakening one's own soul. If these insights resonate with one's personal journey and the intricacies of human relationships, it is recommended to subscribe to the content shared here, which is designed to facilitate transformation. By joining the community of seekers and truth tellers, individuals can delve deeper into the spiritual paths that guide them, explore the nuances of connection and forgiveness, and uncover the wisdom that empowers all individuals. It is emphasized that support has a significant impact, and the journey continues with the community. To support this endeavor, it is encouraged to subscribe and collectively elevate one's spirit. May grace be bestowed upon all.